Welcome to the Empowered Entrepreneur Show. Discover your life's purpose, reprogram your mind for success, and attract an abundance of paying clients to your business. Now, here's your host, Tom Tenaglia.
Aloha, Empowered Entrepreneur. I am Tom Tenaglia, and you're listening to the Empowered Entrepreneur Show. And today we're going to talk about manifesting your ideal client using astrology. Because in the Empowered Entrepreneur Show, one of the ways that I help my clients out a lot is through looking at their astrology. And there's a number of episodes explaining the approach that I take and why I use it and why it works and all that stuff. So rather than getting into that here, let's just talk a little bit about how it is that we use astrology to manifest ideal clients. So if you work one-on-one with other people, what we'll talk about here then will introduce you to these concepts and how to use astrology to find your clients. So if you think about the idea of manifestation being that energy comes from spirit through your mind into physical manifestation, then when you manifest a client, you're bringing the energy from your spirit down through your mind into the physical world, manifesting the client. Then the work that you do with the client brings that energy back up to spirit, brings it up to your spirit, okay? And while you're working with your client, so you're doing the work that reconnects you to spirit, the result that your client gets from working with you actually is bringing the energy from their spirit into manifestation. So they're getting a tangible result from working with you. That's manifestation for them, okay? And then what they do with that result, so the contribution they make in the world as a result of the work they do with you, then elevates them back up to spirit. And so this is a very important cycle to understand. Because you're effectively, if you recognize the fact that what you're doing is you're manifesting the client and then serving the client as you fulfill your purpose, and then the result they get helps them manifest something, and then what they do with that helps them fulfill their purpose, you recognize the net effect of all of the ways that all of these things connect together. So this business dynamic is a process by which you bring the energy down to manifest the client. You then elevate the energy back up by serving the client. Your client then gets a result, bringing the energy into manifestation, and they then do something, whatever their purpose is in the world, to reconnect back up to spirit. So the idea here then is the connection between what it is that you're doing for you and for your business and what result the client gets and what the client's able to do as a result. So for example, if I help you manifest your ideal client, first my business manifests you as a client, right? So that brings the energy into manifestation. Then helping you to manifest your client is me serving you, which is helping me bring my energy back up to spirit. The result you get is you actually manifest your own client, okay? And then the way that you serve your client helps you reconnect to spirit. And so that's just the nature of the dynamic of this cycle here. While I'm serving you, you implement what we do together. And as a result, you're able to create something tangible. In this case, this example, you're manifesting a client. Then you bring that energy back up to spirit through the work that you do with them. Okay, so putting this another way, a little bit more of a simpler way, you can look at it as like bringing the energy down as just plain manifesting. And then when the energy goes back up to spirit, it's like you're fulfilling your purpose. So this is how we create a cycle within a business that is both fulfilling and, well, prosperous. Also, it's kind of self-motivating. There's a purpose behind it, and it's extremely fulfilling. So if we recognize too the work that I do with my clients then goes into the work that they do out in the world, I now have a recognition of how my work has a ripple effect in the outer world in a positive way, okay, as well. So this is very important to understand. And this in and of itself isn't directly astrology, but this cycle of energy and the way that this works from what you're doing in your business and how you're helping your client is so important to understand, because it's beyond the monetary exchange, and it's an energy exchange, okay? And in some schools, the money is just energy anyway, okay? And so the idea here, though, is how is the energy moving? How is the energy cycling down into manifestation for you, up to spirit to you, down into manifestation for your client, up to spirit for the client, and how that cycle continues. And you can keep that cycle moving, then you have in my opinion, a strong and profitable business. So in astrology, then, what I do in recognizing that energy cycle is I take into account what's called the seventh house. Okay, the seventh house, it's an area of a birth chart, and it does relate to one-on-one clients. It also relates to romantic partners and a few other things. But from a one-on-one client perspective, I like to look at the seventh house. I like to understand what it is that the individual, the business owner, would perceive to be their client, because that's what the seventh house is going to tell me. It's going to tell me how the business owner perceives their one-on-one clients. And it's going to be pretty much opposite of how they perceive themselves. And depending on other placements within the chart. So there's a recognition that the clients are vastly different from them initially, until that energy harmonizes. And it's a whole nother discussion. So I look at the seventh house to better understand the client. I look at the sixth house to better understand the business owner's habits, and even the moon to some degree, to better understand how the business owner likes to operate from a planning perspective and from a habits perspective. I'll look at the 10th house to better understand the direction that the business owner wants to go in the world from a soul fulfillment perspective, and what they ultimately want to be their career. And then a few other things, like I said, the moon, Mercury for communication, and the nodes to get an even deeper understanding of what's going to bring them fulfillment and the path they need to take that may not be as obvious to them, or they may be avoiding, that they actually need to take to really unlock the chart. So in recognizing the cycle and in recognizing the energies at play, I'm able to help the business owner adjust his or her filters to deepen the manifestation of their client because of the energy cycle that they're aware of. So we can then look at the energy cycle from manifestation to fulfillment of purpose that occurs between you and your client. And I can look at that within your chart and in such a way that would be fulfilling to you. Now we don't have every single client's chart, okay? But we don't need it, because a client is just a projection of you. It's just something that you perceive in your reality, and it's seen in your chart, okay? This is all stuff that when a client comes to me, I just do it in my head. I look at a chart. I'm able to help them. I'm able to help give answers to their questions. I'm able to help point them in the right direction for how to manifest clients. I don't need my clients to understand this. This I'm just sharing here because this is a deeper understanding as to what's occurring that makes this process work. Okay, so if I were to work with you, I have my own manifestation and fulfillment of purpose. Then what I want to help you achieve, you have what it is that you want to be able to manifest and what it is that you want to be able to do to fulfill your purpose. And so by recognizing that, what this does is this allows us to build something to energetically attract that ideal client, and basically those clients that are going to be fulfilling to you. And really, one of the best ways, or the best way that I've found, in my opinion, to do that is through the process of writing an ideal customer avatar. Now, there's many different ways to do this. I have a very thorough process on it, though. And if you do want to dive into that, you can email me, support@empoweredentrepreneursshow.com. We can talk a little bit more about, maybe set up some time to hop on a phone call or something, and talk about how I might be able to help you with that process. But I'll give you a couple of basic ideas to look into. One is you can overlay the cycle of energy. You can ask yourself, okay, within that process of manifesting the ideal client and the process of you serving that client, what the client gets from it and what the client's able to do with it, you can take those 4 questions and start there. You can also look at the clients that, well, what's consistent between your clients. If the clients that you've been serving are your ideal, then look at what's consistent between them all, what makes them your ideal. And if they're not who you want to be serving, figure out what it is that makes them not what you want to be serving, and then ask yourself what it is that you want instead. And how you know you have it, how you know that client is your ideal client. I also would suggest that you include the things like the way that you work together. All right, so I want my clients to be very easy to work with in many different ways. I want them to be responsive in communication. I want them to be willing, able, and totally excited about paying me. And so there's all of these factors that get into it. I would also strongly suggest that in writing down what it is that you want in your ideal client, that you consider the spirit aspect, the mind aspect, and in the mind you break it down into thoughts and feelings, or thoughts and emotions, and then the actual implementation details, or the physical manifestation of you working with that client. How does working with that client fulfill your spirit? How is the communication with the client? That's more the mental aspect. How do you feel getting up every day to work with that client, for example? The emotional aspect. So again, the astrological way, I'm going to look at the whole chart to better understand the spirit. I'm going to look at Mercury a decent amount to better understand the mind, Mercury in the 3rd house, the moon, and a few other things to better understand the emotional aspect, and how the person would feel. And then the physical manifestation and the general overall projection of the client, which would be more 7th house. And how is that going to fulfill the business owner's purpose? So then you can look at ways that you find these clients that are fulfilling, ways that you serve the clients that are fulfilling, the client result that they get, okay, that's fulfilling to the client, and the net effect of it being fulfilling to you, and then what the client's able to do. Like, we come right back to those 4 questions. What is the client able to do with that result? See, sometimes business owners think that the work that you do with the client is actually the thing that they get, the thing that the client gets, but that's not actually it. The work that you do and the result the client gets could be very different, right? So I do astrology work. I do entrepreneurial things. I help people let go of limitations. But what that does for a client, depending on the client, it can help them break free from a problem that they've had. It can help them with a breakthrough. It can help them find their own clients. I help some clients find their ideal romantic partners, which is a slightly different process from this, actually, because of what happens when you form a relationship. There's 2 energies coming together that form a 3rd one. That doesn't exactly happen in the client attraction process, and so, but So in the example of, hey, I help somebody find their ideal romantic partner, well, I may be doing astrology. I may be doing energy work. I may be working with them one-on-one, reprogram your mind weekend. I may be doing all these things, but the result is their ideal partner. And so I'm doing these things that help me fulfill my purpose and help me connect to spirit. Then what it's doing for them is it's helping them give a tangible result of manifesting their partner. And so that's important. That's why that's why it's going from spirit into the physical from a business owner perspective, then from physical up to spirit from a business owner perspective. And through that work, there's an effect of that the client gets as the client goes from spirit into physical, and then the client then does something with that result, which helps them go up to spirit. So if you think about it from a romantic partner perspective, I may manifest that client. That's me manifesting. Then I serve that client through the astrology, the energy work, etc. That's me connecting to spirit. They get the result of finding their ideal partner. That's their manifestation. Then they build a relationship, maybe start a family, and everything that they gain from that relationship, which helps them reconnect to spirit. So in a sense, you see that then the work that I do and would do with that person, that energy goes into their relationship to some degree, right? It's part of that process. The way that I guide my client to find their partner is going to set up the stage for how that relationship forms. And so that's why there were an episode quite a while ago that I talked about how I'll only take on clients if what they want to do and what they want to achieve from the work we do together is ponno for me, is right for me. Even though I may not do that work, right? So there are people who work with kids. I really don't work with kids. And I help people who work with kids, though. And I like that the work that I do extends into that other work. And if somebody called me and said, hey, I want to work with you because I want to, and they name something that I don't agree with from a values perspective, then I'm not going to take them on as a client because I don't want my energy going into that thing that I don't agree with. It's rare. It is rare. I think it only ever happened once. And that time it was actually just a clarification issue. It came off like the client was asking me to do something. And when I questioned it and said, well, that's just not something I'm willing to do, they re-clarified. So either they changed their position on it or it was just a misunderstanding on my part. I don't know which. It doesn't matter. We were able to come to some agreement that was pono. So, recognizing how I want my energy to go into these things because of this ripple effect, it actually looks like a wave. If you think about going down and up and down and up, it kind of looks like a wave, and it's like the energy moving out into the world and the contribution that you have in everything that you do here. So basically, consider that energy pattern. That will help a lot. Recognize that what you're doing and what the client's getting from what you're doing are two different things. What you're doing is helping you connect to spirit, and it's the steps that you're taking in your business, the things that you do. But what's it do for the client is something totally different. Even as a copywriter, okay, if what I do writes copy, okay, I write marketing material. Well, okay, cool. But what's it do for the client? What it does for the client is it's going to help them find clients, or it's going to help them grow their business, or it's going to help them sell their product or service. And then what do they do with the proceeds from that product or service? And how they make that contribution to the world is then them going back up into spirit and helping them fulfill their purpose. Could also be just the fact that the product and service sales that they have is in and of itself making that impact in the world, and that alone helps them, fulfill their purpose, right? So it's just an awareness of this, because this actually then goes beyond the two people. It goes beyond the business owner and the client, to just that very next person and the next person and the next person, because there is that ripple effect through what it is that we do and everything being connected. Okay, so in the way I use astrology is I factor in that energy pattern as well as the raw astrology itself, and then I focus it with that ideal client avatar. That's why I charge more than a lot of people too, and that's why the astrology that I do is different. The approach that I take with these things is very unique. It's very thorough, and it works. It focuses the energy, and it has this energy aspect behind the astrology. I mean, astrology is energy, and what I'm doing with the astrology and the way that I'm using it and applying it and focusing it is beyond the raw astrology itself. Okay, so I thought it would be a good idea to share what goes on in my head a little bit when I'm working with clients and the way that I look at the astrology from a client manifesting perspective. So if you want to dive more into the ideal client avatar, send me an email, support@empoweredentrepreneursshow.com, support@empoweredentrepreneursshow.com. And with that, aloha, ahuiho. I'll talk with you again soon. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Empowered Entrepreneur Show.